Okay, so here we are. Yes, my name is Martin Greunz. I'm from the Chamber of Labor in Austria, in Vienna. And before I start, I want to share a short story about Alex. That's not me, that's a relative of mine who I met for dinner a few weeks ago. And we were talking about what's going on, and he talked about his work. And he says it's like a detective story or a crime story or maybe even a war, what's going on in his company. And I asked him, what is it? And it is he's a programmer in a small company that maintains servers. And it was founded as a startup a few years ago. And now, after all these years, where the company is really making money, the boss doesn't want to give the employees the rights back, because at the beginning everybody was committed, everybody wanted to help the company, did the extra things, worked too much or overtime, and they didn't get money for this. And after around 7 years now, they try to get the rights back, to get what they deserve, and it's nearly impossible, because the boss is very good in talking to individual people and to convince them that they should be committed to do this and that, and they don't get organized. And that's a real problem. And when we were talking about this, Alex just stopped at a certain point and said, you work at the Chamber of Labor, I shouldn't even tell you that. And that was crazy, because they are all losing time and money and rights, and they don't know how to get organized and to get what they deserve. So, what is it? What is the Chamber of Labor? It's written here. It represents the interests of almost 4 million workers and employees in Austria, in close cooperation with the trade unions. So we have a dual system with the Chamber of Labor, the trade unions, and also there's a third player, the work councils in the companies. The members of the Austrian Chamber of Labor are all employed persons, and it's a legal membership, so you can decide if you want to be part of it or not. You are part of it.
So you have like a specific law that says that all workers have to be members?
Yes. That's the law on Chamber of Labor. That's the next slide. That says that we represent the social, economic interests of workers and employees. And it also says, this law says in another paragraph, that we work together with the trade unions and the work councils. So, we have expertise in economic, social policy, justice, education, and very important also is consumer protection. We offer advisory service and legal protection for our members, training of work councils and union officials, research into work-related matters, and globally it's a think tank for work right-related matters. And it's important to understand the system of the Austrian Economic and Social Partnership, because there's the Austrian Trade Union Federation, the Chamber of Labor, the Economic Chamber, and the Chamber of Agriculture. And these 4 players, they work together when it comes to discussions on new laws, and if there are negotiations about the wages. That's a very short introduction in the Chamber of Labor. And I started 1 year ago at the Chamber because I was I studied laws, then worked in the film industry and software industry, and came to the Chamber of Labor with the project, with the digital game project. And I want to talk about this today, and we will discuss it, because it's a new thing for us as well. And what you see here is not the title of the game, it's just a placeholder, the welfare state. And the picture is, it may look like this, but we don't know now. It's in production. The kickoff was in January, so it's quite in the early stage of development. The idea was to get young people into the themes of the Chamber of Labor and trade unions, because you know the teenagers, they just, most of them, they just don't know anything about it. They maybe heard something about it, but in school there's not much about it. So we try to explain what is it, why it's important for them, maybe not now, but later. And we have economic simulation games already in the Chamber of Labor, and the school classes come to the Chamber of Labor and play these simulations. And, sorry. To make this be possible for more children or teenager, there was the idea to make a digital version of it, to transform it, to make it a bit different or whatever. But because there are limits in time and in people who, when they come to the chamber. And so about 1.5 years ago, there was the idea to produce a digital game, a mobile game, so that we can go into the schools and they can play it there. That's basically it.
So can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it obligatory for the school students to participate in such programs, or do you negotiate with, I don't know, local government or individual schools?
Yes, both. We have to, it's not mandatory, but we have the contacts to the schools, but it's different. With one school it's better than with others. So that's the way we have to distribute the game, and maybe some want to play it, some not. They don't have to, but we think that we can reach, I don't know, I can't tell you any numbers now, but from other things that we do with the schools, we think that people will play it. Yeah.
And also I was wondering, since I know a little bit about the German education system, and I know, for example, that the trade union BRID has education for school students, and they also sometimes, that makes it easier for them to involve students into trade unions at a very early age, because they start to work before they're of age. So is that kind of your goal? Is the Austrian education system similar to the German in that sense?
Um,
I'm sorry,
Honestly,
it's a
I
bit
don't
much.
know a lot about the German system, but the students should get an idea what it's about, and then they could be part of trade union. Yeah. Okay, so I go on, and there's a short description about the game, So the aim is to give young people an exciting introduction to topics such as democracy, participation, solidarity, employee representation, and trade unions. And it will be a socio-political change from a totalitarian system to a democracy. And it will be a multiplayer game, a cooperative game, and yeah. So the idea is that they play together, and they win together, or they lose together. That's it. Well, the students could play it from the age of 12 or 12 plus. It will be multi-language, played in classrooms, as said before, and as there is always the problem in games with the magic circle. I mean, it's not really a problem, it's the nice thing about games, as you know. The magic circle says that if you are in a game, it's like a capsule, and the world outside, it's somewhere else, and you can do anything, maybe according to the rules. You can be somebody completely different, but the thing is, you can be a hero in a game, but if you step outside the game again, maybe there's nothing left of what you have experienced in the game. So, as our goal is to give the students an idea about the policy, about politics and stuff, it's very important to have the transformation from the game to the political system we're living in. And so the idea is that the game is supported by trainers, at least at the beginning, and then we see if it may work without support, or maybe the teachers in the schools could do this support and talk about the game afterwards too. Yeah, it will be on mobile devices, and release date is at the end of January 2025, and it's a free download, so everybody in the world should play it. And this is my last slide about the project management, about the technical side maybe. You know, as said before, for the Chamber of Labor, it's a new project, a completely new thing, and we have to be sure that the process is right, and that we don't lose all the money and everything. And you know, if we make a mistake, if the game doesn't work, there are many political parties in Austria who are just waiting for this. So there's a very straight process, and we have a steering committee. We had a European-wide tender, an expert commission who had a look at all the proposals and then made a decision. And then there was the kickoff, as said, on the 23rd of January. And now we have sprints in the development that last 4 weeks, and we have sprint reviews, and there's a quality assurance. But on developer side, we have playtests in the Chamber of Labor to ensure that the content is right, and then we have focus group tests with the students to ensure that the game makes sense, is funny, and that they want to play it. And that's it. Thanks.
So can I ask you just two more questions
Yeah.
before we move to Alexander? So I saw on your website that you have all the materials available in multiple languages. So in how many languages will the game maybe be available?
There's no decision on this, but maybe 5, 10, or even more, because if you use the Loca kit that uses the language of the system of your mobile phone, you can easily implement a lot of languages, because you don't have to reprogram the game for every language. And as you know, in our schools we have a lot of languages. A colleague of mine, he's an expert for teaching in multiple languages, and he was talking about 30 languages and more. I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the game should be icon-based. That is very important, and we need some text for sure, but it will not be a text adventure. So.
It's not the 1980s.
Yeah.
So, Alexander, maybe we'll move on to you, and just for the efficiency's sake. So, as I saw on your website, you're the managing director of a trade union-friendly video game company, which is something I think is quite unusual even in rest of Europe and the world. So why is that so important to you?
So one part of the equation. Thank you. All these microphones are making me anxious. So one part of the equation is, of course, the content. So making content that is union friendly, pro-union, like games like this. And another part of it is that it's very difficult to talk about something that you don't know. And that's true in any art form. If you make a movie or you write a comic book, it's best if you write about something you know. And we are very interested in trade unions and workers' rights and stuff like that. And when we made some games, like last year we released a game it's called Pause of Call. It's about little rabbits who are striking, trying to get their rights because some weasel in management won't pay for their healthcare. It's much easier for our writer to write about this stuff because he's part of the union. So there's this content stuff, So there's it's important to be able to understand the stuff you're writing about, But also because when you look at video games, there's a lot of stuff that is shown in video games. Like you can be a mafia boss or whatever. You can be a goat. You can be an untitled goose, whatever. But it's very rare to be a union representative, to organize strikes. So this is just something that's what very good that you said that it's very rare for a studio, a game development studio, or even an IT studio to be union organized, because there was a shift, especially in Croatia, but in the whole world, like maybe in the 1980s, this shift happened where you had an attack on unions, and usually unions weren't so well received from then. You had, even in America you had Reagan and so on. In Europe you had people like Thatcher and so on. Not to go too much into history, but that was the time when trade unions really took a very hard blow. Let's say in the public eye, they lost members and they lost power and so on. And at the same time, this is when actually gaming or the whole IT sector actually blew up, So most programmers, even in old gaming companies, just don't know what trade unions are, And this is the reason why there is not, and like I said in the beginning, you can't really write art, make art about something you don't know, and because most of the developers have no idea about unions, they aren't part of it and so on, they don't write about this. This is just not part of video games, Like you have these very weird depictions of trade unions sometimes in games like Grand Theft Auto, you know, which is like it shows some basic misunderstandings, you know, which stem from maybe, you know, movies, you know, somebody watched a movie like The Irishman and it's like, it's like a mafia, okay, let's put some mafia guys and we're gonna call them a union. So funny in a way, but yeah, the question was not this, but I just wanted to give you a historical context of where we are. And our studio, we're a bit different. We actually did unionize when we opened the company. We actually made a collective agreement with everybody, which protects people. I personally thought it was going to protect people when the company becomes big, you know. But as it turned out, it protected people when the company became smaller, when it started crumbling. Both is very important, you know. When the company becomes big, then people should be, like your great example with your friend Alex, right? When the company becomes very big, people who started working in it and who actually built it up, you know, when it was a startup, when the paychecks were low and so on, they should have some organized way of actually being able to influence the company later to somehow, you know, get a part of this. But not just those people, the whole collective, you know, should be able to reap the benefits of this great success, which can happen, you know, in IT and in video games, whatever. You have these big, they call them scale-ups, you know, like startups which have this 1% chance to scale, you know, and become huge because, I don't know, 1 million people play the game or 10 million people buy the app, whatever. So there is this chance, you know. So this is one part, you know, and the second part is, as we know, like startups are very volatile, especially in this cultural sector. You know, 99% of startups fail within the first few years, you know, 5 years or something. It's very also important for people to be aware of their rights, and if we live in this system, you know, which proposes some kind of ideology which says, okay, like the capital is entitled to a lot of the profits, you know, all of the profits, because they are the ones who are actually risking their money, you know, so they're the ones with the risk, and then therefore they should reap the rewards, you know. And in reality, this system doesn't work this way, you know. In reality, when there is a risk, when the company goes bankrupt, the workers are those that are not getting, you know, paid out, you know. And we have this in Croatia a lot with companies that don't pay their workers for months, and then they go bankrupt, and then the workers just, in the end, it turns out that they had actually taken a lot of the risk. And if it was on the flip side, if the company actually survived, they would not have reaped the huge benefits of some huge profit. So these are like very basic things that are just part of the world where we live, and we wanted to like sort of start on a very like stable ground and lay down collective rules for a collectively organized company, and it worked well for many, many years. You know, this last year was a little bit of a recession, you know, but still we had to respect the collective agreement and all the stuff, you know. So in a certain way, it's good to, you know, take these vows, and because they are legal vows, and it's not like in the example that you gave, where this one guy is like super charismatic and he says it's gonna be fine, and then he, you know, screws everyone over. I don't know how to say it nicely. So yeah, legally binding collective force, which actually has a union-backed legal team, and, you know, with lawyers and everybody who can actually help with this, is a good way to run a company. You know, it's a fair way to run a company. But what actually I would have been more happy with was if this one small company and when we were the biggest, we had like maybe 20 people. You know. So it's not a huge company. There are companies in Croatia which do games which have 100 people. So my idea was that this would spread, but it's very difficult. As I said, historically it's very difficult. People are very confused about the concept of trade unions, confused about giving a part of their paycheck to somebody and then organizing, and they feel it's adversarial. Of course it is adversarial, but they feel that an individual approach would be better. So my personal opinion is that we have failed probably. The main goal was not to have a nice company, and the main goal was to actually try and spread this. So this was a little bit of a failure, for now at least. But in the other hand, it was a nice case study, of how you can actually, maintain workers' rights in a very unfriendly environment, which is famous for crunch time and so on, which we never had. Yeah. So that's a very long answer. Sorry, I don't want to be here for 2 hours. So the next one is going to be very short.
I will ask you some other questions as well, because I also saw that what is very important to you, and maybe is something that is not so familiar to people outside of video game world, that you will list credits for all persons, everybody who is involved in the process, which is something that sometimes happens, that some people work in development but don't have the credit, and they have, I think, the problems to find new jobs because their work has been kind of eaten by the company who, and also this very interesting scheme. I mean, you say now that it's a failure, but I think it's an interesting concept, and maybe in the future it will be better that everybody who works in GameShark has a share in the profits of the company,
Yeah.
which is also something interesting.
It is interesting.
Alex, the mysterious
In reality, what happens is that whenever we had a big amount of cash income in the company, like a big deal was struck and so on, we just raised paychecks. So we always had bigger and bigger paychecks, and we never had this profit to be shared. I think 1 year, 2 years ago, we actually did have some small amount of profit, and then we did share it, but it amounted to maybe, I don't know, several €100 per person. So yeah, this is like a conceptual stupidity, where of course if it's a employee-owned company and everybody wants bigger paychecks, you're never going to have any profit, because you're going to use it for bigger paychecks. But of course the idea for this was when the company strikes some huge gold mine, when you actually have like tens of millions of euros, you're not going to put paychecks of we're not going to have €1 million paychecks, but we're going to have some profit sharing scheme. Fine. The first thing you said is credits, and this is important because not all of the rights that workers don't have are that they want to have are material rights. So okay, you want a bigger paycheck, sure, but in the creative industry, it's very important for you to be accredited, and a lot of other stuff. But this is a very important one because there was like a 6-month strike with the Writers Guild about this and so on. So yeah, it's one of those things that's in the collective agreement. Also, maybe more controversial is that the workers are the owners of the IP, co-owners. So our writer for a game, he left the company, but if he wants to write a book based on the IP, he can do it. Whereas often you have people who put their soul in some kind of story. They make a great story, they make great characters, and then they can't do anything with this, and then it's a very unforgiving situation creatively, because you've created something, you've created a world, and it belongs to a corporation. It's different from, for example, the literary industry, where when George Martin writes Game of Thrones, he's the owner of Game of Thrones. He can write sequels, he can write prequels, he can do whatever, In games, it's owned by the company, and the actual writer is usually not the one who can continue unless he's given permission by the company. So this has happened often, and this is a problem. So we've had that clause and a lot of other clauses in the collective agreement, which is very long and very, very interesting, in very various ways, but it's not the point of the subject, so I'll skip it.
And I also wanted to ask you about, again, my organization, BRID, kind of helped.
The Daily Thread, yes. So
this is like a little advertisement campaign.
Yes, great.
About the game, which is also related to these issues that we are talking about.
So there's a game called Daily Thread, like textile threads. It's out on Steam since last year, and it's part of it was created on the event also organized by the Austrian Cultural Forum, which was called Future Jam, where you had to make a video game about the future of work and the past of work and so on. And it was one of the winners. everybody won actually, which is one of also weird concepts, but okay. The game was great. It was well received. It's out on Steam. People love it. You're a textile worker in Manchester in the 19th century, and you're having this miserable paycheck, and you have to use this paycheck to like feed your 6 sons and daughters. You know, like typical 19th century English situation. You know, and you're getting these pennies. You know, and the only way to actually get out of this horrible situation is to join a trade union, organize, and then lead a general strike. Which is fun. It's a little bit. It's a comedy because it doesn't go that way very quickly in a few days in the real world. But it was interesting, and people liked it for what it was. I think there is a concept where you can actually use video games, which are a medium that young people like and people play it and so on, and bring something to them that they haven't ever understood, that the concepts that are completely alien to them, for example, trade unions, as I mentioned, are completely alien to young people, and by not shoving it in their face, not making some kind of very direct statement, unions are good and so on. People don't like being told what to think, but if you do a sort of like you mentioned, fun game, which also happens to explain certain things, then you have something that might change their minds and explain to them something that they might not have understood before.
Thanks.
All right.
You're the only trade unionist here. Proper trade unionist. You're working trade union for education, media, and culture. Alexander, can you please move the microphone? About it.
This one?
I wanted to ask you, we're talking about cultural products, cultural content, or cultural works that kind of support the idea of trade union and labor organizing. As far as I know, the trade unions in Croatia don't use those options a lot. They're also kind of not very active in the social media area. Does your trade union use any kind of digital tools to make labor organizing easier? Would you like to do something like that in the future?
Yes, thank you, and thank you all for coming. Yes, I have no knowledge about gaming industry or anything they were talking about before, but I have some knowledge about labor organizing, and now I can say that I can see like a mutual benefit from our potential future cooperation between like companies such as Gamechak and trade unions in Croatia. And I think we are actually at the very beginning of this hopefully fruitful cooperation. Like the technology is like developing like faster than ever, and I think even today we cannot anticipate how our society and the activity and the way we are interacting is going to look like in the future, and the trade unions are actually not exception in this process. From one aspect, the development of the technologies actually opens like a whole set of issues that are actually concerning the trade unions, such as like automatization, robotization, disappearance of all traditional jobs, precarization, insecurity, self-employment, and others. This is something that challenges that are something that the trade unions have to find an adequate answer. But on the other hand, the development of the technologies offers tools that could actually provide support and help to the trade unions to mobilize, to increase their membership, to actually work with the younger people who, as you said, who perceive trade unions as aliens. But I think I have to go like step back because at this point, I think in Croatia, the trade unions still didn't develop I think they still don't perceive the importance of using like digital tools and the importance of implementation of new technologies in their work in order to be stronger and to actually to build like a collective power, which is their assignment. From my experience, I can say that we are like losing so much time because we are still dealing with like papers, printing documents. We still like use email and Facebook as like some kind of a digital tool, but all others is kind of, and the things you were talking about is still some, I don't know, like very far future for us. We like trade unions still use like either outdated databases for their members, or some of them still uses like Excel sheets for the data for the members. And I think this is, and we already talked about it, and actually I told that about it, that I think the first step is to develop, I mean they exist, but to implement like new databases that could actually help trade unions to deal with the existing members better than, and to have like a whole, how do you say, cjelovito, like complete perception of the membership they are actually working with and they have to work with. And of course, then it can help, it can open, at this point, like, for example, our database is, I would say, outdated in a way that it's like centralized and only like a few of us who are employed in the trade union can actually use it. And it is like, I would say it's the first step to open it for the members or for the branches, because it could be a platform for communication and for like, of course, cooperation and transferring of knowledge and experience and all others that is actually needed for building union power, labor power. Like this is the first step. And when we talk about digital organizing, as I said, most of the trade unions now use like emails and Facebook. Maybe some of them use, I don't know, Instagram or TikTok, but I wouldn't say that. So this is something that is also like a whole new sphere that should be developed, and all of these tools can actually help trade unions to actually improve their capacities to build like members. And now also I think that we can, for example, I am losing and we are losing a lot of times. I mean, losing, like it's not losing, but like the demands of the members, existing members, are so high that like in every day I have to talk to like on the telephone or by email with so many members that are actually asking some kind of the same questions, and I use like, I talk to them, and this like conversation lasts just too long, and I don't have actually enough time, or we in the trade union that are employed don't have enough time to actually deal with the things, with the real organizing. So I don't know, I don't have time to organize education for the trade union or for the members and others. So I can imagine now that some technologies, especially, I don't know, artificial intelligence, could help us in this work, because these are like the same questions. I'm like using the old traditional copy-paste method when, like, since I'm like, yes, since I'm yes, I have to answer to many similar questions. I just like, of course I do it, but it's something that again like uses my time, and then it kind of there are so many possibilities. I think if trade unions could actually trade unions could use, and the technologies that could use, and tools that could use for increasing their power. And what I think is that, and for my trade union for sure, is that we don't have the knowledge. And as I said in the beginning, I don't know anything about the actually new technologies, about gaming industry, about this field at all. And I think the fruitful cooperation and the benefits we could gain from it is actually it comes from the cooperation between these two different fields.
So I think like maybe the kind of, since I know you have a lot of your membership is very dispersed because a lot of your membership are preschool teachers. So do you think kind of that a lot of trade unions in Croatia don't have the capacity anymore to organize educational seminars or stuff or similar things for their members? So maybe those kind of tools would help in that as well. So maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, of course. It's not, I mean, it's educational seminars, programs, anything that can actually, any kind of platforms that would be open and that could actually help members to interact between each other is something that is actually the I would say the most important tool to increase the labor union power. And I think that also when we are talking about the technology, yesterday I was talking to some younger members of my trade union, and they were talking for half an hour, and I didn't understand them. I mean, they were talking about TikTok, about something on the TikTok. I don't know what's I couldn't talk to them. And then I realized, okay, we want to increase our membership, and the pool for that is, of course, young people. And okay, and I'm kind of an organizer who I have a lot of experience. Actually, our trade union is the trade union that actually from 2019 till 2023 increased in membership in 94%. So in 2019 we had around 3,000 members. Now we are around 6,000. So we are really, I think we are working good, but as I said, yesterday. Yeah, sorry?
I mean, it's a lot of members to handle on a daily basis.
Yeah, it is a lot of members, and then, as I said, especially when these young people are coming and becoming members, now I realized, okay, we need to change, we need to transform, we need to use. I need education actually, and yes, and we need tools, we need platforms that could actually help us and help them to interact in order to build the power we want.
Like everything that the Chamber of Labor in Austria does, for example, that they invest in also in cultural products, seems kind of strange for us when I think trade unions are, don't have enough capacity to even handle their members, to offer them some basic information services and so on. So maybe I should ask you, what would be the first step to kind of increase awareness of trade unions? And do you think it's possible, would it be possible in the near future to implement education about trade union and workers' rights, social rights into schools? Because it's something that's not even talked about in Croatian public.
Yes, it's not this a big issue we are talking about for last 10 years. And of course, this is very important field that is we should try to open. But as I said, I think that the more progressive trade unions in Croatia are still the small ones, and the trade unions that are open to these new that are open and perceive that the development of technology and the tools that the technology offers are actually important for building power. They lack of capacities to develop in a way they would like to, and to implement the tools we were talking about. And when we are talking about young people, as I said, we have so many this is like an open field and we don't know how to use it. Of course, we have to enter the schools, but we need tools. We need tools, and we need how do you say that? We need to understand how to communicate with them. It's not only about, you said it actually. It's not only about talking to them. Trade unions are important. You have to organize or something. We need I don't know. We need new ways of approaching to them, and tools and platforms to interact with them and to actually organize them.
Would you like to say something, or should we go to maybe questions, if there are any?
Well, for us, it's also always the question how to interact with the young people. And so to go to the schools, that's, on the one hand, it's the easy way. On the other hand, there are some barriers as well. But when we talk about social media in the Chamber of Labor, it's very hard for us to have the right strategies to reach this target group. And honestly, I'm not in the social media team, but I don't have any idea how this could work, because it's a very tough business now, social media, and as you know, there are many players and also many neoliberal influencer groups, and you really need people who know the business, and yeah, so I can understand if it's very hard for you to enter social media, and for us it's hard as well.
I remembered maybe some 10-15 years ago there was a representative from Verdi here in Zagreb, and she talked about how they approach young people. It was very funny to me. I was like a student back then, and at the end of the school year they rent a tram and they drive the tram all around town, and all the kids who are finishing school, the maturanti, the graduates, they can enter this tram and drink and have fun, and there's like crazy music and so on. And what they do actually is they drink with them all night. And this representative was saying this, in a building similar to this one in Frankopanska, and they actually just they have fun with them, and then they tell them, hey, how about you join the union? Oh, but I'm going to college, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be working. Sure, you can just join the youth initiative. Sure, and then they join the youth initiative, and then they're in the system for 4 or 5 years, and then when they actually start work, it's much easier to just jump in and start paying the membership fee, which was very funny at the time. But the point is that you really need new methods, and they don't even have to be technological methods. You mentioned, of course, TikTok. I don't even use TikTok. I don't know what it is. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to even be technology. It can really be just like outreach. For me, I would prefer if our education system, with the civil education that we have, which is like a subject now, and you learn about, a lot of this civics stuff, and I hope there's like at least one day when they learn about trade unions. I would guess that there isn't, but since this, civic education is different in every city, I guess we could probably influence it wherever we're in power. But the thing is that apart from this, this structural nationwide education, there's also stuff you can do, like on your own. Like enter schools and tell them, okay, look, guys, this is 1 hour. We're going to do something. Of course, you need teachers who are acceptable to this. But it's easier, I guess, for a union that's that's organizing teachers and stuff like that. But yeah, Another part of the coin which we haven't discussed at all yet, which is maybe completely out of scope, is this digital tools, you know. So like one thing is making entertainment, you know, making media which tells people about something which is important. It's like propaganda, you know, like writing on the wall, you know, some slogans. So we don't have to write slogans anymore. We can make video games, okay? So we're not gonna go to jail. But the thing is, it's more expensive though. But the thing is, you know, there's also this whole other thing where once you have members, let's say you have a lot of members, then you have this problem, you know, how to organize them in this digital age, you know. And your enemy, you know, on the other side is very well versed in technology, you know. Amazon has these AI systems that check cameras and checks in the warehouse who talks with who. And if they see that if a union organizer talks to one guy for a long time, then the system just, you know, puts the guy in a different warehouse so they can't organize well. So they have these huge, very complex systems, and it's all online. You can read about it. It's really like they're spending millions of euros on anti-union software. And we're like thinking about whether we should, you know, get databases, you know. So it's we're at a disadvantage, you know. It's not like, and this is not the way to win, you know. On the other hand, we don't have the resources. We don't have 1 million euros to spend on this. So we should turn probably to open source. We shouldn't be talking even to corporations, you know. Corporations cost money, you know, and in this. And building a cathedral is very hard and expensive, but you know, building a bazaar is very cheap and easy, you know. Everybody just puts up a little tent and that's it, you know. So yeah, it's different. You have to think like a guerrilla, you know, even in this digital age, and you have to probably spare your resources as much as you can, you know. Like in my opinion, if somebody asked me if I was like a union organizer, if somebody told me, okay, we have an extra 100,000 euros, let's spend them somehow, I would not suggest spending it on IT and digital tools, you know. I would suggest spending it on, you know, building the capacity and trying to find a way to get digital tools, you know, for free from the community, from, you know, open source communities. Because the way software is right now, the way it's expensive and so on, it's like it's an uphill battle, you know, like with all these super expensive engineers and so on. And unions are struggling because there is no membership fees, there's no members and so on. So it's a very risky thing to do, unless you think like a guerrilla. So that's what I would, you know, I try to think more in this way.
Can you say something? There's more information. But that's actually what I was talking about. I mean, I think we cannot quit from the traditional way of organizing. It's actually like the basis, like the door-to-door talk, like face-to-face talk, organizing different actions, industrial actions. This is something which is actually helps us building power. But as I said, we and I really have that experience, like the last 4 or 5 years. I lose so much time for so many different activities that could be actually done much faster if I would, or if my trade union would implement different new technologies. And of course also if it could spread for the, as I said, to open and implement different platforms that could improve communication among the members. If it wouldn't be so centralized, as it is right now, that is something that could actually help me and free a lot of time to actually work the real trade union or organizer work. And that's why I think it's actually, I don't think we have to use or pay to software companies like these huge amounts of money. We don't have it actually. But we need to find a way how to be like a guerrilla and how to find these tools, how to implement these different platforms and tools to help us actually to do the trade union work.
So that's why I was very happy when you said that you're going to translate to a lot of languages and it's going to be free. So actually you're going to, the fact that you have all the Austrian workers as your members, you know, mandatorily, actually helps us because you have actually the power and the finances to actually build a game, you know, and work on it for a year. And then we can actually use it for free, you know,
Yes,
if you translate.
And what's interesting is also that you can see all the important documents of the Chamber of Labor, for example, in Bosnian, Croatian, and Serbian, and in many other languages of foreign workers there, or people whose first language is some other language that's not German. So that's why I asked her about it, because I saw on the webpage, we have a lot of migrant workers here in the last few years, and the trade unions even don't offer basic information to them on their labor rights in the languages that they can read more easily, especially when it's something so important and very difficult to understand. So that's what I was shooting for, actually. And yeah, it will probably, I mean, it's one of the core languages of Chamber of Labor. I mean, it's like five or six languages, and one of them is the highest. So maybe it can be used here as well. You know, kind of, we can, since it's free, we can maybe kind of ask our trade unions to use it for some other stuff as well. Yeah. So are there any questions? Carlo.
Thank you for what you said. I have a question regarding the financing of, let's say, gamification of trade industries. Obviously, in Austria, you have the Works Chamber, which has a lot of, not a lot, but it has enough money to finance something like that. But I guess in most other countries, something like that doesn't exist. So in order to do something similar, you could either rely on European Union projects, which are hard to get, or you could rely on the market. So that's actually my question, whether there is a space in the market for gaming, or in the gaming industry, for games that would be like, let's say, that would be like ethically and morally in line with the idea of trade unionizing or some other kind of this sort of leftist propaganda, if I can call it that. So that's actually my question. Is there a place in the market for something like that?
Maybe we can try to get an answer for this together. There are many games out there. They're often called serious games or purposeful games or whatever. And but most of these games, as I can see, are not really big. So they don't. They are in the market, but they're not big. But there are many games that have political statements or strategies for political actions in them. So that's also a way to educate people.
I know of a lot of games that are, like you said, serious games which are dealing with a lot of topics. Mostly it's ecology and stuff like that, but there is also sometimes like games with union organizing, but very rarely. There are games which are like talking about workers' rights, usually like dystopian science fiction, futuristic, like The Last Worker from last year from Jörg Tittel. And I mean, there's a lot of these kinds of things, but then you play them and it's not really, you're not playing a video game that was, when you're watching a movie by Ken Loach, you are getting something from this, you're getting some ideology, you're understanding something. When you're watching, trash dystopian movie, you know, where the people are poor because it's the future, you know, and evil corporations are working. This is giving you nothing, you know, nothing you don't already know. We are already living in this future, you know. So I don't need to watch a movie where it's even worse. I need to watch a movie which explains, you know, tactics, organization, strategy, and so on. And most of the video game developers that are doing big games, like I think The Last Worker was Xbox exclusive. I believe they're not using the vocabulary and strategies of trade unions because they're not members of trade unions. They're just not in this world. I mean, they're maybe reading about it, you know, they're maybe left, more likely liberal, but this is not part of their daily, you know, they haven't been educated in this system, they haven't worked in the trade union system. A real change will be once the game developers who know how to make good games, you know, combine their skills with actual, you know, people like who are worker activists, you know, who have this knowledge of how the terrain work functions. And because this is completely two separate fields, we either have small games that nobody wants to play by activists, you know, which are actually, you know, good. I mean, good in terms of like explaining strategy. And then you have big AAA titles like Cyberpunk, where you're like super poor and corporations are winning and you get nothing out of it, you know, nothing strategic, you know. And this is sad, you know, and you have to combine this, but of course, how to do it, you know, these are completely separate worlds since, like I said, from the 1980s to today, they are completely disparate worlds. Yeah, so it's a question. It's not something we can answer, but it's a dilemma that we're facing today.
Anyone else?
We're done?
I think so.
Perhaps one question for Martin. Do you have cooperation with trade unions? Because you said it's a kind of specific situation. It's specific for Austria from our context, because the membership in your organization is mandatory, and you need to decide to join the trade union. But my question is, do you have like some sort of a cooperation between the workers' chamber and the trade unions regarding perhaps the education, the sharing of expertise, and perhaps even the interest in financing some further similar projects to this one?
Well, yes. One of the experts in the commission, there were 5 people who looked at the proposals, and one of them, she was from the trade union. And during the development of the game, we will show them the game. They should play it. We don't have the people at the moment. I mean, I don't know who will play it there, but we have the contacts for sure, and they will feedback what they think, what we should better display, what we should change, because it's an iterative process, and it's very important for us to get them in, because they are a very important partner for us, and yeah, that's it. And about the financial thing, I mean, this game is the game of the Chamber of Labor, and yeah, if they want to give us money, they can, but the budget is on our side at the moment, and I think there wouldn't be any change about this.
I would like to thank you. Guten Abend. Thank you for coming here. mentioned that your game is also for 12-year-olds and younger generations.
Yeah.
Do you have some specific approach how to deal with this? They're not children anymore, but they're not even grown-ups. Do you have some specific take on how to present their games and the ideas behind the workers' rights and stuff like that? Because it's probably very vague to them at this point in their age.
What we can see is that there is a lot of influence on young people from social media, and all the influencer guys who present their Maserati and tell the young people how to avoid taxes and whatever. And so I think we don't offer a Maserati in the game, but what we want to display is that you have to work together to claim your rights together, and that you can't do it alone. At the moment, we have the analog versions, the simulation games in the chamber, and these are workshops, and people are at that age. So the goal was to have a digital version of that for the same target group.
So I guess that would be it. Thank you all for coming here, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.